If you're like me, you're trying to figure out how to communicate and talk with people throughout the customer journey, from if I'm meeting them on LinkedIn, on the top of funnel through the podcast, and then getting them to my site and into my CRM, and then through the customer journey to become a customer. It's really hard because we're trying to integrate different content types, different platform types, and different delivery types, whether it's SMS, email, voice, webinar, and so on. And in fact, 82% of customers expect businesses to provide seamless experience across all these different channels. But 60% of companies, including me and maybe you, struggle with this fragmented conversation. That's the problem that we can solve with Reed. Reed Hansen runs a company called Market Search out of Evanston, Illinois. And he's going to talk to us about how to build really a joined up conversation with your customers throughout their journey, and with using AI to do some of their heavy lifting. Reed, thank you for joining me today.
It's a pleasure. I really appreciate this opportunity, and love to talk to a broader audience.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful to have you come across the pond. And this is a joy, isn't it, of podcasts, that we
Absolutely
can really go across the world. And it's a worldwide problem for entrepreneurs that we've got the desire, the need to be more and more online, to create more and more content. And yet knitting it all together is really, really hard. So Reed, tell us about Market Search, to help people understand and help me to understand more about the agency you're running. But then we'll talk into the customer journey, and, we're going to walk through together how an entrepreneur can solve each step of the customer journey and communicate with them in a joined up way that means that you don't lose them on the journey.
Absolutely. Well, Market Surge is a digital agency. We utilize multiple technologies to help facilitate communication with clients where they are found, where they are most comfortable, and we enable our clients to have access to SMS, to platform for voice calls, and automatic dialing emails, with a view that these can all be seen in the same place. And thanks for bringing that up. So a unified view of all these communications is really critical to understanding your customer. Many individuals have different preferences on how they want to be contacted and reached, and having those options are critical for any business. But to have this in one place is very important for smaller businesses and entrepreneurs to maximize their efforts. Now, we work with our clients to develop frameworks and processes that can be both automated, examined as they are out in the wild. When we actually get feedback, we re-examine and adjust, whether it's verbiage or timing of communications or particular offers. We work with our clients to make sure that is continuously optimized, and that the needs of the customer are accounted for, and you really meet them where they are.
Okay, so we've got a couple of things in there. Well, actually, lots of things in there, Reed, and it's marketsurge.io for anybody that wants to find Reed after this. Of course, I'll include his details in the show notes. But Reed, we've talked about the need to have, if you like, multiple touch points as people come across the customer journey or go along the customer journey, but that each technology platform may be doing something slightly different. SMS may be one platform. You maybe got Facebook with another platform. You've got a CRM, which is one platform. How do you help an entrepreneur, or rather, how can an entrepreneur, if you like, remove the work of going on to Zapier and Make and all these other tools that then kind of are trying to do automation across the different platforms? Because some of us spend as much time trying to get it all to work as actually doing the work.
Yeah, well, obviously we have done this for many years, and we have, for instance, specific industries that we've developed a lot of best practices in. And so, as an agency, I'd recommend this for any agency owner, that they niche down and focus on businesses that they've worked with and use that expertise to, not proprietary information, but share best practices with future clients and try to build a community in a given niche. Now, we utilize frameworks across different businesses, but we've found that we need to continuously refine, as I was talking about before, this. Sometimes the messaging worked in this business or in this time zone in the USA, but it didn't work in the different state in the USA. And so we adjust and refine. So we start with the framework and then examine results and iterate based on response rates or customer conversion rates.
Okay, so Reed, when you say a framework, that presumably is, if you like, from A to Z, every time that the potential customer has a touch point with your client. And do you want to just take us through? So you are also using AI, and we're going to talk about how you're using AI and how we can all use AI at each sort of touch point. Do you want to start at the top of the funnel, or I guess outside the funnel, and just take us through so that, we can learn from you what are some of the tools and some of the best practices that we should put into place?
Absolutely. So, it's a very deep topic, and so I'll do my best to be as concise
top line,
as
obviously,
possible.
But I mean, in a way, detailed and yet top line.
Sure, you bet. So, well, let me just start. Well, one thing at the top is I'd like to emphasize that if you are using ChatGPT, for instance, as a business, if you have an account, so one of the first things you should do is create an agent that's very specific to your business. And maybe Jim, you've talked about this on past podcasts, but the ChatGPT, if you use it, a free version, if you just open it and start typing questions, it will only remember things that you have input into that thread, and it will reflect that. But if you create what ChatGPT calls an agent, and there's also other versions on other platforms, agents are available on Grok and Gemini as well. You create. So what I've done is I've created a market search strategy agent, and then I've also created an agent for each one of my clients. And this, every time I open the agent, I've put paragraphs and paragraphs of information about the practices we have at our business, our preferences, our experience, and case studies. And you can add file attachments to even extend that further. You can have a whole Wikipedia for each client. Right. And that is where I would start with using AI in any step of the process, is that you have that context, the bot with the context, like top of mind. So every question it answers, it's acting as an employee or agent of that business.
Okay. And just to be clear then, so Reed, you call it an agent. Is that what is also termed a custom GPT?
Correct. Yep.
And then that's good for when you're working on like the content, for example. I know some people in storytelling have built a custom GPT or agent for storytelling. Mm-hmm. But how can you then, if you like, serve your customer with that agent? Because otherwise you're getting an intelligent assistant for you to do the work, or maybe your team. But part of what we're talking about today is how you improve the customer experience. And I noticed on your website, for example, you say that 78% of customers buy from the first business that responds to their inquiry. And yet the average lead response time is over 47 hours. So that's low-hanging fruit, Reed, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Is there some way that you can use, or that you are using that GPT to be the first responder?
Absolutely. And what we have is software that can respond dynamically to a client when they submit a form or any kind of inquiry. And so it uses natural language processing to read the response. We have open-ended fields, like question fields, like tell us why you need a marketing partner. And so they give us a few sentences, and it reads that, it synthesizes it, and provides a custom response. And now ideal is that you have a human answering every response, a polished professional, but that doesn't always happen because those inquiries come in after the 9 to 5 work schedule or on a weekend. And so we have a chat agent that answers SMS. I also utilize voice AI agents for incoming phone calls. And so the training process is similar to how I train a custom GPT, but extensive testing is required, and you want to make sure that you are monitoring the responses and the dialogue between the two entities. And if you ever see anything inappropriate or odd, that's time to add some additional instructions for the robot.
Okay. And Reed, I'm just going to ask you that you're
Yeah,
using voice. Which
yeah,
voice are you using? Because I've experimented with 11 Labs, for example, for clients to
right.
create a multilingual agent because they're a travel agency and they're
Yes.
selling services in Spain, but the clients are in America. So that's great. What are you doing in terms of voice? And is that something that is on the website? Because especially for
Yeah.
people maybe that are visibly, have what do you call it? Impairment. Sorry, I've got a bit of a flu. I'm a bit
Oh,
slow
that's
today.
fine.
But you've got people that are visually impaired is the term I'm looking for.
Ah,
Your voice agents could be very useful, couldn't they?
absolutely. And so the technology I'm currently using, so I have actually experimented with 11 Labs and one other, what I'm forgetting, but because of the fact that my CRM is built on the Go High Level platform, there is a native voice AI that after a few iterations, so day one it wasn't great, but after a few iterations, I've been very happy with the results.
Okay, that's interesting. And then
Yeah.
on Reed's website at
Mhm.
marketsearch.io,
Yeah.
you can find a sort of catalog of ways that he's using AI. If you want to look at my YouTube channel, Jim A. James, you'll see a screen share, but he's got content AI, conversation AI, workflow AI, voice AI, which we just touched on, and funnel builder AI. So really, this is then using your platform across the entire
Correct.
process, isn't it, Reed?
Yes. Yeah, we found that the AI is able to examine a lot of potential options for workflows, and it has ideas ready to go. So if you ask it simple questions, you'll get simple out of the box workflows, for instance, or email campaigns, very simplified. And so that that is where you as the business owner or business leader come in. You have to give it better instructions to get better outputs. And I like to joke, I am not a computer developer or technician by background. I got an MBA, and then in undergrad I actually was an Italian major. And so I do like to say that AI actually has empowered the humanities majors of the world to play strongly in the technology world. And
Yeah.
because so much of the output of AI depends on the quality of input and the thoughtfulness that you give in prompting it.
I think that is such a great point that really it is only actually as smart as the prompts that you give it.
That's right.
So, Reed, we talked then about top of funnel. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe someone's doing a podcast. Perhaps you could take us through maybe a customer that you've got without, if you don't want to divulge names, but
Sure.
a case study of how you've managed to build this flow. Because for many of us, I say we end up with these kind of points of contact, points of AI, and then we spend our time trying to manage the AI in the same way that you might manage a member of staff, just without the conversations and the Christmas parties. So
Yeah. So
take us through a customer, a client that you've got and what you've done for them and how that's worked.
And then just to clarify, do you want me to talk about how I've helped them implement AI or how I've taken them through the sales cycle with AI?
Let's talk about what you've done for them. So
Oh,
have
okay.
they've got an so let's think that I'm a potential client,
Yeah.
and you're
Okay.
saying, okay, this is the solution that we can put all the way through.
Perfect. So one, I really enjoy working with one niche that I really enjoy working with in particular are pest control clients. And
Okay.
in the U.S., I don't know if this applies in the UK quite the same, but in the U.S., the pest control companies, um, they've evolved a bit, but they are very high volume outbound sales organizations. And is that the case in the
Yeah, I guess
UK?
it's a commodity item, right? It's sort of the
Yeah,
lowest price coming to a neighborhood near you on Thursday,
right,
booking your
right.
$50
Well,
extermination, right?
exactly. And so there's a tradition of college students. They spend summer walking the streets and they knock doors in the warmer climate states and say, hey, they sell right on the spot. It's one of the few industries that still does a lot of door-to-door sales.
Right.
They also generally have very high volume call centers, both inbound and outbound. Like you said, it's a commodity. So they prize the velocity at which they can respond and finding people's needs before they even pick up the phone. Thus, the door-to-door agents and so speed is critical, and volume and reach are also
Yeah.
critical. So in the case of talking to a pest control client, so there are two aspects that needed to be managed. Is there were multiple ways that customers were coming inbound. One was through organic search. They typed in pest control services near me, and we work with them to manage the SEO in a way, effectively. We utilize AI to analyze the current state of audit their SEO status and the
Yeah.
keywords that they are ranking for, and opportunities for improvement. So we have that analysis. We create blogs, recreate landing pages, and other things to improve their organic ranking. And then we also do advertising based on the high volume searches in their area. So some areas are going to have higher volumes of termites or rodents, and we do an analysis and represent that in AI generated keyword embedded content
Okay.
for those pages. Then we also help them facilitate more. So in this case, we suggest an AI agent for both chat and voice for calls that they miss, but they have large call centers, so there aren't many that they miss. But we have also embedded these agents, these AI agents, in nurture campaigns, because once they have worked with a pest control company, as it is fairly commoditized, and honestly, it could be a little bit forgettable what company
Yeah.
they worked with, and they're going to Google it again. They create campaigns where custom message goes out via chat. There's a task assigned to a rep to send out a custom message, say, hey, it's been a while. I know this is the high season
Yeah.
for
Weevils or something. Or
weevils. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And so just wanted to check in, see if you're ready. And then when they respond, and you do that, you could potentially do that in mass. And then when they respond, you have
Right.
an agent that can book an appointment and take it through close. So it's in part because there are so many channels that we have to, and in a situation where there's high competition, that speed is so important, and there's so many different ways that a business reaches its customers, that we provide basically AI technology at each channel
And
touch
yeah,
point.
interesting. And then I could see on your offering, you have, email, SMS, sales funnel, website, call tracking, surveys, bookings, CRM, tracking analysis. You've even got courses. It looks like you work with Kajabi and Teachable
Correct.
there, and you've got reputation management, and you're giving your clients a menu of offerings, or they can presumably buy the whole
That's correct.
package,
That's
right?
correct. And like you said, to generating content in a lot of different forms is very valuable for the customer journey. A lot of customers aren't really customers yet until they do a little searching after they've tried to do it themselves. So they might be Googling in the pest control situation, like how do I poison
Yes, that's
ants
right.
myself? And then you have a guide to download that from your website, or a video course, something that you provide, and then that turns into, wow, they really know what they're doing. I don't really want to touch those chemicals. Let me
Yeah. So
reach out to them.
you've got content. Reed, I have to ask you then.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I have to ask you. You talked about ChatGPT for the intelligent agent.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
At the risk of geeking out here, what tools are you using for writing the content, and also then for the graphic design or videos? What are you playing with there to generate consistent quality?
Yeah, great question. So I have been using Jasper.ai for a long
Yeah,
time, but it's funny. At the beginning, Jasper was not that great. It was just kind of impressive that it could do
yeah.
anything.
It was one of the first movers, really, wasn't it? Yeah,
Exactly. But what I've found is, if I use two AI engines so I write either in Jasper or ChatGPT, and then I ask the second GPT to rewrite it
yeah,
and improve, make it more persuasive or make it more concise. Give it an additional instruction. It's better than just having one write it, and less. Um, it's more challenging to tell that it was written by AI.
yeah.
If you
So
realize.
in the old days, when I ran my PR firm, you'd have every press release would have four eyes, right? The account exec would
Yes.
write it, and the senior would review it, and then go back, and then the client would review it. I don't know what it would be called when it's AIs checking AIs, as they have no eye. I guess it'd be two AIs, wouldn't it? Not four eyes.
Sure.
I've also found using Grammarly very
Oh
good,
yeah. Mhm.
because I'll
Absolutely.
create content in AI Writer, which is another good one, for
Okay.
example, or ChatGPT, and put it into Grammarly, and that makes it local for the UK, for example, and checks against passive voice, which I find AI struggles with quite a lot, as passive voice. So it's interesting that you're pairing up, and I will then get the benefit of your wisdom with video
Oh
and
sure.
images. What are you finding works there?
Let me just. I want to double check. Okay, so because I just started using one yesterday that I actually really liked. Okay, so there is, of course, the Chat GPT of Sora. It sounds like you're familiar with that.
I'm
And
playing with Zora. It was
yeah,
Sora. Yeah, that's kind of
yeah,
fun. Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah,
also
very fun.
with Descript,
Oh yeah,
you can type a script into Descript, and it will make for you a video
and
as
I'm
well.
also a Descript user.
Yeah, you go
And
Descript. Yeah,
yeah, that's right. And then, but I'm just going to click through my tabs because I want to find this before I speak, that I've actually really liked, and it was quite inexpensive. It is. I'm sorry, I didn't have this top of
no,
mind,
no,
but
it's
I
unfair.
will.
I
I'll
dropped
have it
this.
before.
I dropped this on Reed just because when we talk about all these different tools, I think one of the options that we have as entrepreneurs is to try and stitch them all together ourselves. And you can tell I play with them a lot. But for the sort of prices that Reed is charging for putting it all together, which is, you've got sort of $99 a month, and the whole package is like $1,200 a month, right? It makes a lot of sense to find someone like Reed who's doing all this background work and making it into a consistent customer journey for you. Otherwise, you're trying to get all these different tools together and then get the content from one place to another. And Reed, you're plainly doing that for
Yes.
clients. That's
Well,
why I wanted to go into the kind of tools that you're using, because they do exist, but it can be as time consuming to find them and learn them and use them as it can be just to outsource and get on with running your own business.
absolutely. I found the platform. It's called Leonardo.ai, which I found is actually, it seems to be quite good value for the monthly membership, and very high quality video as well.
Okay.
So a little plug for that platform. I'll also say too, to your point, I willingly put a target on myself. I will, almost any sales representative that comes to me with something that seems original, a software that seems original, I will talk to them and meet with them. I feel like that's part of my role, as you say, to be aware of all the technology and at least have an opinion on it, if not some user experience that I can speak to directly.
And Reed, for the client of Market Surge, I'm assuming that they talk with you about the framework, as you call it, the customer journey,
yes,
the avatar, the ideal customer profile, and then you map out the different omni-channel, whether it's SMS, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's email, whether it's podcasts or whatever. But the client, your client, really just logs into a dashboard, I'm assuming, and gets kind of just go in and find the people that want to buy from you. Is that right?
That's right. And we have a combination of automated and manual steps in each process. We like the first interaction to be custom whenever possible. So if we're going to start a cold email campaign, we'd like the first one going out to be written by a human, or the first cold call is placed by a human whenever possible. Obviously, and you can help qualify clients that way. Quickly remove them from a customer flow and prevent angered responses.
I think that's a really great point. That we were going to come on to this question of authenticity, and we've maybe sort of got ourselves to that point.
Sure.
Do you think what you've just stated, that the first call, the first email, should really have a human touch, because it's that sensitivity, isn't it, that enables you to build the relationship with the client? Would that be your recommendation?
That absolutely would be my recommendation, for a few reasons. Like you say, it's people are getting more and more communications and unsolicited outreach than ever before, because we have these softwares that make it so easy to do it.
Yeah.
There's forces in the other direction, like the telecom companies with their filters and the email systems with their filters. But people are on guard. They don't want to be annoyed, but they also don't want to be taken advantage of. So it's fair on their side that their guard should be up. But when I rarely get a call from a human anymore, unsolicited. And so when I do, it's like, this is a real person, and the novelty of that is often enough to start a conversation.
And I think that's a really great point, that in this age of AI, being human can be the source of competitive advantage, can't it?
It's true.
That's actually very reassuring, because it doesn't mean the big companies are going to win. Reed, you've run Market Search for a number of years now, so as an entrepreneur in your own right, what would you say is your sort of number one piece of advice to other entrepreneurs when it comes to building your business?
Well, it's been a real growth journey for me. Though I have worked in sales and marketing for my entire career, I may sometimes I can surprise people and confess that I am an introvert, and that a lot of a lot of meetings kind of exhaust me, and it feels like work. But I have learned to push back against that instinct because of the rewards that I get from networking. So, as I said, I love to take calls from potential vendors, potential job seekers. I get people from my university. They'll reach out frequently for the purpose of networking and asking about the industry. And I love taking those calls, because the best customers come from those kinds of networking interactions. Like I'm open to help people for free, absolutely. And whether it's with advice or point them to a software that I've really enjoyed using, or article. So the one piece of advice that I'd say is that you can't overvalue opportunities for human interaction and networking. Despite all the technology that we have, the best outcomes are going to come from speaking to people, and and maybe I'd say without a motive. Like if those open kind of settings, and you may have to overcome some introversion. Those lucky extroverts are going to be happy, but I think that's exactly what we should all be focused on.
Okay, Reed, that's wonderful. And in terms of focus, I do ask about a book or podcast that you may be focusing on when you're not working.
Well, when I'm not working, I have, I'm on my third listen of the podcast, The History of Rome. I don't know if you've heard this one, but it is a comprehensive history. It might be 10 years old, but it goes through every year of the Roman Empire and in detail. So one person talking, and it starts out, he's got a very low quality setup, and then you hear, and over the podcast, it greatly improves. And it is just fascinating. I'm one of those people. There's that meme going on about how often do you think about the Roman Empire, and it's probably daily for me.
Well, I guess right now, especially you've got sort of Caesar in the White House. Reed, right. Just what the question is going to be, who's going to be Brute? That's the question, Reed. Reed, if you want to get hold of you and talk to you about Market Surge, how can they do that?
So the best way is to go to marketsurge.io, take a look at our offerings, and we have pop-up forms and other forms at the bottom of every page. But you're also welcome to reach out to me directly at reed@marketsurge.io. And I would be happy to talk. Even, again, it doesn't have to be a customer client discussion. Happy to network, happy to bounce ideas, and just love meeting new people. And I'm sure I would benefit as much as you would.
Thank you, Reed. And for an introvert, I appreciate you being, open-handed and open-hearted. Absolutely. Reed Hansen, joining me from Evanston, Illinois. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Reed and I got into the weeds a little bit about AI, partly because I'd like, to share with you some of the tools that are available, but also to know that now there are agencies like Market Surge that can help you with all of that. It could be a lot of heavy lifting. And unless you really enjoy it, talking to someone like Reed, or talking to Reed directly, why don't you just call Reed and help yourself by letting them help you. So that's been today's episode of The Unnoticed Entrepreneur. If you've enjoyed it, please do share it with a fellow unnoticed entrepreneur. And we really don't want anyone to go unnoticed. And until we meet again, I just encourage you to keep on communicating.